Hmm. There's all kinds of fun stuff I do with this. Welcome back, you game changers and you fantastic human beings out to get up to something if you're not already up to it. This is the Maturity Project. I'm your host, Chad Everett Brochures, or Sir Chad Everett Brochures to some. If you know, you know. Today's conversation is to continue on the trend that I've been working with here recently, and that is change. Change, change, change. So, look, we got a lot of stuff going on that's causing frustration in people's lives. The Maturity Project itself is dedicated to fulfillment in life for anybody who takes on the challenge or takes on the education. The 8 different areas of maturity, they're all designed to help you create more fulfillment so that you have more satisfaction in your life. You see, the thing is that we keep doing things that are less and less effective or only get modicums of success when you do it. It has a habit of frustrating you and creating some undesirable experiences along the way. And you just create stress and is whatever that comes with it. The thing is that who the hell was there to help guide us when we really needed it? We've had guidance, absolutely. We all have. We got it through primary schools, we got it through our parents, got it through authorities, we got it through our society. But there's just something that is this gaping gap of support. And that is when we go through things. By the way, all of this is available to us. It's available, but you don't know where it is. You don't know where to look. And a lot of times it's not packaged in a way that you can actually consume it. You don't even know it's a possibility. Because when I say maturity, what does that mean to you? The majority of people tell me I don't want to grow up. And I'm like, why don't you want to play with less insecurities? Because think about it. When you're playing and you're just goofing off or doing whatever it is that you're doing, and somebody says to you, like, or somebody does something, or it clicks in your head, I look childish doing this, or I look bad, or I don't look as good as I could, or whatever it is. That's an insecurity speaking to you. Does that not take you out of that moment? Like, wouldn't it be better to just play and not feel insecure so that you could really live into that moment? And I know there's plenty of people be like, no, 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 I play all the time and I never get insecure or whatever. And look, we have ways of lying to ourselves. We have ways of convincing ourselves of things. And then there are times whenever it's true that you don't get affected. I can't speak specifically to you because I don't know where you are. I don't know you directly. And, or if I do, I don't know what's going on in there. Nor am I telling you that I'm the arbiter of truth. The point of the Maturity Project is this, is that it's a combination of contribution from people, that they're bringing this to the table, that they have gotten good at something and they've developed there. But what do we typically do is we by default think that they're just special. This is why I always interrupt when somebody tells me I'm smart, I'm brilliant, I'm intelligent, whatever the hell the title is, that gives me some sort of acknowledgement about the fact that I've thought my way through a lot of things. And then I have the ability to articulate those thoughts, and I have problem solving values and all these things. I've had it, but I interrupt it for this reason, because I don't want you to think I'm special, because I don't want you to think you can't do this yourself. Because if you do think you can do this yourself, you are now unable to do this with other people, or you're unable to do this at all if you think that you can't do it. Because if you think I'm special, then you're like, well, I'm not gifted like him. Don't do that to yourself. It is a con. Okay. There are, and I'll say this a lot, is there will be specific attributes people have that they just, they're good at something specific. But all it is this: perhaps if they're good at it, maybe they just have 10 hours worth of training more than you do. Maybe they have 100 hours of training more than you do in that field based on where they're starting at. They just have this innate value that just gives them a head start. So what? So fucking what? Do something about it. If somebody's doing 10 hours a day or 10 hours a week worth of study in specific areas, and you know that, hey, if they're doing 10, if I do 12, then it's a matter of time before I catch up. If they've got a 100-hour starting point, even though they don't have any experience, they just have this alignment and development in that area that they can pull from that, then they have something that has got them there. But there's an equatable value to how good they are at something. And maybe for every 1 hour they study, it takes 1.5 for you. Guess what you do? You do 2 hours. Don't take it away from yourself. Do something with it. So today's conversation is about change. Change is fascinating. Everybody says they want it, but a few people are willing to do what it takes in order to achieve it. Stop thinking everybody's special. You are too. If everybody's special, so are you. Don't look for the gifts. Develop everything. Your gifts will show up. Just develop. Don't sit and wait for a lottery chance or wait for the stars to align for yourself. Do something about it. What are you willing to give up in order to change? And a lot of times what you have to give up is simple. It's who you have been. And who you have been will be talked about in this. So what I'll talk about today. First off, why is change hard? Well, change is hard because you have your social influences, the people that you have established a structure for connection and a structure for the relationship that you currently have. If they joke with you, they joke with you. If they're serious with you, they're serious with you. They have all of these things that have become attributes of that relationship. And people get familiar with the way they treat you and the way you treat them. So if you change that pattern, you get some pushback. The pushback can show up in the simple is, what's going on? What's wrong? You're different. Something's not right. Those kind of things show up because that's natural because you've interrupted the pattern they're familiar with. So it's a little hard to make change when patterns that other people in your social circles are familiar with, because it's safer if you are who you have been. They've gotten used to the allocation of their resources to you as they have, and it makes it easier to deal with life because they can set and forget that relationship enough they can move on. It's this, in the psychological element of it, it's called a heuristic. And a heuristic, and I've talked about this in many videos in the past. I'll do it real quick because it's value for this particular conversation today. A heuristic is a specific batch of information that you don't need to think your way through because you've already done it. You've already thought your way through it. Something is simple, but I don't want this to be distracting, but just to the data batch that you receive from a specific word, phrase, or sentence, something cues you into a heuristic call-in, which is it just implants that specific information, fills a void, and you don't need to put energy into thinking your way through it at that point. It is contributory in the way that you believe the thing or occurrence is happening or the conversation or whatever. You're jumping to conclusions about it, but those conclusions can be right or they're wrong, or there's some variation inside of right or wrong. Though mostly right, mostly wrong, whatever. You've got some variations in there. Heuristics give you a privilege to that because you don't need to use as many calories to think your way through, nor the time that it takes to get through it, things like that. Think about the first time you've learned something new. It takes time to understand it. You have to work your way through and pull information from other places that make it make sense, or get all new information, which is not as common, where it's all brand new stuff to you, but it does happen. It's just not as common. We get the other instances where you have freedom, you have previous experiences you can graph off of. So you get new information. There is a time and caloric value, an energy value, an attention value, your fortitude for keeping your concentration has a drain against it as well. So all of these things have a cost to them when you're learning something new. Here's what a heuristic is, to give you a very silly but kind of funny, but at the same time, it's a gripe that I have too. It's kind of a pet peeve, is the heuristic of Karen. When you hear Karen, one word, but what does Karen make you think? Immediately, Karen makes you think a late 30s, early 40s, into their 50s, white woman, suburban woman with a bob haircut that's demanding to speak to the manager so that they can complain about a, employee, right? Something about their service or their products or whatever it is, but it's customer facing typically, almost always. And the person is complaining about either someone or something, but they're a complainer and they want to speak directly to the manager because they don't want to deal with the nuisance of talking to an employee. So that's a Karen, right? One word, that data is immediately implanted. or variations of that. I painted a picture of it. It doesn't have to be verbatim, but that is what a Karen is, right? That's what our societal belief is in it. The colloquial understanding of what a Karen is. That's it. That is a heuristic. It's a data batch that you have. Even right now in this conversation, everything you understand about every single word that I'm using and the phrasing that I use, the context of the conversation, you're putting a lot of heuristics in place. You don't know you're doing it. It's just saving you the time and energy of having to think your way through it. And the conclusion is the accuracy of communication. Now, here's the other part of it. Heuristic is part of what you have to fight when change comes up. You have to deal with heuristics because they cost energy and things like that. So I'll get further into that in just a minute. But anyway, change and why it's hard. You have a societal value, which is your friends have a specific way that they're familiar with dealing with you. When you're in specific moods, they have a way of dealing with that as well. Everything about you, the more time they spend with you, the more profile values they build for you. If you're constantly funny and you're funny in a lot of different circumstances, and one day you're not funny, something's not right, and they're going to want to get you back to being funny. If you're always serious, but then what does serious have, right? It's not just serious. It's usually serious with some sort of context value. It has to do with when you get into a conversation about physics, you may not be overly animated, very specific and very serious. It could be, talking about work. You're just not very animated. There's very little emotional depth to it. These are all examples. I'm not saying they're exactly how things are when it comes to your social group and how they know you and how you know them. Think about the way you know your friends. Now, when one of them changes their pattern of behavior, what do you tell yourself? Right now, you may be primed in the conversation to tell yourself, hey, I like to talk to my friend this way, and I'm going to give them the privilege of being any way they want, because right now you may be primed for the conversation on change and you want that privilege extended to you. But without that conversation priming you for that thought experiment, then just think about your friends. Prior to that, try to separate yourself from all of it and say, how often do you give your friends the courtesy of they've changed a pattern of behavior and you accept that pattern change? If they're most of the time funny and they're not funny right now, do you try to push them back into being funny? Because funny seems like it's, hey, at least they feel better, because how could you feel bad if you're being funny? You know how many comedians are actually really, really, like just really sad or really upset people? Shit. Oh, man, I love the guy too. Oh, man, he played in a lot of movies. Robin Williams. God, I love that guy. What a force for good in this world. Incredibly depressed. There's a lot of comedians that'll tell you that their jokes and how they deal with things come from depression, comes from the darker side of life. And that's how they find light. That's how they find something that makes them feel good. Problem is that it is like a drug, and it can get worse. It can actually lead from just dark thoughts to depression. And then it can lead from dark thoughts with depression could get to the point with like the way that Robin Williams ended his life, or at least the way we understand he ended his life. So it's truly sad that people deal with that, and it's hard to identify they are. But a lot of them will confess that they actually have a pretty dark side, or they're not happy all the time. And they use humor to try to medicate that, if you will. It's their opium, if you will. So, all right. So change and why it's hard. Well, that's also your friends, your social groups. It's also yourself. So whenever it comes to change, how it feels it may feel like an attack. It may feel like the world's coming at you. It may feel like something's falling apart. It can feel really, really hard, because you may go into it with the idea that change is supposed to feel good. It's supposed to be easy. There's a lot of things that you believe about change. The thing about change is that it's not just that. Like for me, I put up a big, big game. Like I put a big bet on life, but this is the way that I am. I have a very, very high tolerance for risk. So it's a risk threshold. It's very high, because I'm willing to risk a lot to have the life that I want and to create the life that I'm going to live in, not the one that is the safer route, which is a low risk threshold. Now, I have a very high one. That's not a bragger, anything like that. It has its own consequences, and it has its own costs, and it has its own benefits. Everything has a cost benefit. I'm more likely to take a higher risk stock value or investment than to take a low long-term thing. But it's better to diversify. But we'll go into that another time. That's not now. And I also don't give advice for that. That's not the walk I have in life. I do have financial maturity in my series and my education, the Maturity Project, but I don't give advice on how to invest. I just give you the more about what it is and perspectives and insights so that you can make up your own ideas. Also, I don't like giving advice. You got to pay me to give you advice. And even then, it's going to be a really long conversation before it finally gets to advice. I'll give insights. I like insights. Insights are clean. There's no debt that goes with an insight. Advice comes with debt. It's another conversation for another time, but just know that's the perspectives that I have on it. Also, what I teach my students is it's freeing. So, all right. So, how it feels, it has a lot of variations when it comes to change, but it very rarely has that feel good. It usually is the feel good is whenever you have the established pattern that gives you the outcome you're looking for. That's whenever it starts to feel good. It's like going to the gym. You first start going to the gym, it's pretty rough, pretty uncomfortable. Your body's sore. You don't really know what to do. You got a lot of thinking that you got to do in order to just get a workout in versus the habit that comes with a pattern that you've established over time. So regimens, things like that. And then it takes time to just turn it into a living lifestyle habit. That's a whole nother thing, but it's because it's so well ingrained. It's a living lifestyle habit for me. I love going to the gym. I enjoy it. It's part of my daily ritual. I have to take care of my body. That is also part of the Maturity Project is the physical body, but that's a big conversation piece. Today is not to be diving too deep into that as much as it is change is occurring when you go to the gym. Your body's changing. You're making different decisions. It actually has an incredibly good and a very satisfying foundation value when it comes to change, because it helps you establish the disciplines necessary to be successful. And then you can graft those disciplines in other areas of your life. So, all right. So how it feels, it has a lot of different variations. Why it feels that way is also associated with exactly what you know, how you've built yourself up until that point, and who is involved, because of the urgency, the depth of value, the urgency of those values, and everything else associated with your close circle, your social group. It'll have its own feelings associated with those people. So why it feels that way, that is because of where that relationship values are built and what your expectations are. So what is actually happening when you're dealing with change? So with change, you have your current skill sets that have got you to this point. Those skill sets will be trait values of who you are, how you know to deal with the circumstances and situation that you're in, and what can you do with that versatility of that particular ability or that skill set. Now, that's a current set, and you have developed it. You've actually changed many times in your life. There's just times whenever you don't realize that you're changing because it has subtle values and you don't really notice it as much. You just may say, I'm kind of stressed. I don't really get it. I don't know why. I'm tired. I feel really good. There's a lot of reasons there's a lot of different outcomes from the sensation of change that's on a low end, very low level. Basic habit forms, things like that. You keep doing a specific body motion for a particular period of time. You've changed the neurological pattern of movement to the point that it is now familiar with that movement and you don't notice you're doing it anymore. Every baby goes through this. Every person goes through this. You've gone through it as well, where you had to learn motor skills that became habits of movement. And now you don't need to think. You just think to yourself, I want to grab that glass. Well, if you observe children, when they go to grab that glass, they're not very calibrated, at least not in the earlier stages. But you can see them calibrating. That's that wonderment that you see where they're like, ooh, look at my fingers. Look at my hand. Look at the way my arm moves. And then they bump something and they knock it over. And then you hear their mother scream, yeah, you're making a mess, or the dad or whomever, right? Yeah, or they don't scream, or they're like, oh, okay, well, just got to clean this thing up. Or they don't notice it till later, whatever the scenario ends up being. But you can see these things happening. So, yeah. So here's the other factors for it, your skill sets that are current. You just have a reliance on those skill sets, back to the heuristics. you have a specific degree or a specific amount of calorie consumption, energy consumption, and wear and tear on the body that you've become familiar with that is going to be reluctant to change because you've taken the time to develop that. Now, making new patterns is actually fairly hard by comparison to letting the old patterns run the show. You can actually see how frustrating this is for people that lose their ability to move. They have to relearn it, like after strokes or traumatic brain injuries, things like that. They have to relearn skill sets. There's also some viruses that you can get that do that to you, and other traumas that can happen that cause you to have to learn these things again. But you can talk to somebody that has gone through it. It is actually pretty damn hard initially, but the option is you don't move anymore, or you don't move like you used to. And there's a nice carrot on the stick to just get back to where you were. Some people keep going on after that, and they become, higher level athletes because they now know they were taken for granted something. They have ability they never really exercised too far into before. So, becoming extreme athletes or whatever, or getting into new activities that are considered extreme, parachuting or, hang gliding or whatever. There's a lot of other things. Not that I'm partial to any of those. They're just, quick examples that came to mind. So you have the current skill sets, then your challenges to those skill sets. You will have challenges to come to them. Those skill sets will have challenges that the new stimulus, the idea or the goal is associated with. And when those things show up, they challenge what you currently know. And when they challenge what you currently know, what your skill set is based in, your skill set has to adapt, but it's uncomfortable. It's frustrating. You're like, I don't know why I'm not good at this. I was good at it yesterday, but it's slightly evolved. I'm not as good at it now, or this took longer than I thought it would. That's the language of what happens whenever those current skill sets are challenged and like being pushed into evolving. It's not a bad thing. This is just what change is. It's happening to you. When you don't have it guided, it's just you're a happenstance of change. You're just changing because of, life's happening to you. If you want to be really powerful, set this as a destination. I'm going to change these things, and then go, I'm going to have a lot of work ahead of me, and I don't even realize the full value of that work that I'm going to have. So challenging your current skill sets is no fun. And it's also energy demanding. And if you're high stress and everything else going on in your life, you can only tolerate so much change. You can only tolerate, and also I refer to the stress associated with change as transition stress. So how much transition stress can you take before you start fracturing the foundation? You got to be mindful of that, but you can always back off at times. I've realized that I keep expanding my plate when it comes to that, or the load that I can take on. Excuse me. Oh, all right. There is a cost associated with learning something new. That's cost, and the skill sets and developing something new. Costs are going to be the energy consumption. You have to actually consume more energy. By the way, your brain consumes a significant amount of the carbohydrates, the glucose, that you take in on a daily basis. It's one of the most inefficient organs in the body when it comes to glucose consumption. You could look at it that way. It just has a high demand because it has so much that it does. Your brain does it in a significant amount of things for your body, and it does take a lot of energy. So you add in changing patterns or shifting heuristics, that just takes quite a bit. So energy consumption, the pattern of thinking that you're familiar with is the same as any habit that you have. There's just a particular pattern that you think by. It's also referred to as neuroplasticity, is the changing of patterns to the brain. It gives you the ability to actually change and create new pathways, but it takes time and reinforcement to do it. You have to have all kinds of stimulus to really create that, or excessive repetition. So there's different variations to it. You can present pain values or condition under exhaustion, things like that could actually speed it up a bit. But you also increase the margin of error to a degree as well. Now, again, I'm not a neuroscientist, nor am I a behavioral specialist in a way that would make me some sort of PhD or something. That's not it. I have a significant degree of curiosity that I'd like to exchange or to offer people. Just insights. All right, neuroplasticity. Look it up. It's fantastic. It's really interesting science there. It's a piece of science anyway. All right. You have also When you want to make change, you have to challenge the current skill set. The interesting thing about it is it's not just the current skill set. This current skill set I've already discussed. It just gets uncomfortable at times, and it's just frustrating because you have been good at something and now you're not as good at it, or you're from what you perceived it to be, it is categorically the same or similar to something you've done before. So it can be challenging to do. Cool thing about it is that it also has association with other skill sets in your life, because no skill set stands alone in your body. And there are adjacent skill sets or supportive skill sets that also derive value from what you're currently working on changing. Think about habits that you have. If you smoke cigarettes, what else is associated with smoking a cigarette? It's not just smoking a cigarette. It's the body motions, right? The hand motions, packing cigarettes. There's all kinds of things. I smoked for 6 years. Not my proudest thing, but it is something I did my teens and into my early 20s. Quit cold turkey. And I'm very, very happy that I did. It was one of the smartest decisions I've ever made in my life. Pardon me, I was starting to yawn there. Okay. Now, you also have not just the habit of motion, the habit of what you do physically, packing a cigarette, whatever, what pocket you put it in, all these other things. You have habits to it. When you get in your vehicle, if you throw it under the dashboard or put it in the glove box or wherever you put it, there's a habit that is associated with the motion of getting in your vehicle. And when you get out of the vehicle, there's a habit of making sure you have it, so you bring it with you and whatever it is, right? So you have those habits built into it. Then you also have the psychological element. You might smoke a cigarette every single time you listen to a certain song. You may smoke a cigarette every time you have an alcoholic beverage. You may smoke a cigarette when you get with gatherings of other people. Again, this is just a cigarette thing, but these habits are all over the place for us. This cigarette thing has a point of contention based off our society that makes us focus enough on it, and then start addressing the things because enough people say, "Hey, I need you to stop smoking because I care about you and I don't want you to die a horrific death. I want you to be around for a while. Please quit smoking." Now we have to look at the reasons why you can't quit smoking. It's a challenge because of these things. You can get the chemical break because you chew the nicotine gum to at least reduce the desire for nicotine itself. There's also other additives that are addictive in there. Some of the reasons why the supplements like that aren't really as effective, because there's other things. Even toxins have values of addiction that, sugar is addictive, and there's a lot of stuff. But anyway, I don't want to get down that rabbit hole necessarily, just using that as there's more to it. So you have the chemical thing that has your body going, I need cigarettes, I need nicotine, I need whatever else that toxin's in the body because I'm used to it. Under this stress, these chemicals are introduced to my body, and my body is not only used to these things, it's becoming dependent on these things. So whenever I'm under this type of stress, I need to have a cigarette. This is not a non-smoking campaign thing. There's no big money from cigarettes or non-smoking or the anti-cigarette lobbies, nothing like that. No lobbyist has come to my door about cigarettes. This is just a powerful example, because if you can graft from this onto other things that are a little more ambiguous when it comes to this, or there's less light shined on it, you can start looking for, why is this thing so hard for me to change? Think about the cigarettes and the adjacent benefits or the other things associated with that particular habit, and you will get somewhere. I guarantee you're going to get somewhere. Where you're going to get to and when you're going to get there is completely up to you. That's not up to me. I'm insight driven only. I'm not giving you advice. I'm not telling you how to live your life, because I'll tell you this, and then I'll move on to the next portions of change. I am not the world expert. Now, I am an expert at the Maturity Project, and not the world expert in everything. And I'm not telling you have to listen to me, but I am telling you that I'm going to give you the best base of logic that I do have and the insights that I've had. And I am looking for other people that are better at this than I am. When I talk about change, I do have a bit of a background in change. I have, quite a bit of the exercise background in change. So, behavior modification through exercise, all kinds of special certifications that I've taken, all that stuff, so that I could associate behavior change in the gym as well as out of the gym to get better results and better health drive for the person, not just physical results, but health related results too. So when it comes to who do you listen to? Everybody's offering something to listen to. Look, you can guide people up to the level that you have. You can guide them as best you can in the walks of life that you have. I fortunately have had a very dynamic life so far. I've gone through a lot of things. If you feel you know better than I do in any of these subjects, by all means, please comment in the comment section. This isn't an argument. This is to enlighten myself and also the other listeners. And you may actually get invited on the show to talk to me about your area that you're more developed in with me, because this is something to be contributed to, not to be attacked. You can attack if you like, but it will say something about you, because this is something that's very open for growth. This is something that I am devoting my life to. I am so incredibly curious to learn and develop. And I hope that you're interested in the same things and you're after the same things. I have been getting a lot of contribution from people, just them telling me how it's coming along with using the Maturity Project and things like that. But then there's also some insights from people that are more developed than I am. And eventually you're going to see more and more of those people joining the show. They're also going to contribute to the development of different types of, collaboration of intelligent properties, things like that, training manuals, those kind of things. You'll see that. They're coming. All right, so back to change. Now that I've had my intermission. Okay, so it challenges your current skill sets. Those skill sets they have other things that are relying on them. It is like Jenga. You address one area of your life and a skill set you're trying to change, or a skill set associated with a behavior you're trying to change. That can challenge other things about you. The more of those that you are working on, the more likely you are to be challenged by who you believe you are, because so much of that is affecting your foundation. When you go after one skill set, it typically doesn't give you that, existential crisis that some people go through. You may not get to that off of one thing. But if you add in multiple things, it can increase the likelihood that you're going to question who you are to the world. That's okay. That's what change does. It's the experience that if a diamond could communicate and tell you what it's like to go through the change, these are the things that you would hear. Because a diamond goes through a lot of pressure, a lot of heat, and and the time necessary to form into what it is. So the heat and the pressure do not let off on a diamond. It's precious. Why wouldn't you want to be precious? Keep telling yourself that. You're forging your own diamond. You're forging your own precious jewel or your gemstone. You're forging yourself into something fantastic. So when you are trying to make these changes, just keep trying and be aware you're going to feel some challenges here and there. Take on as much as you feel comfortable and confident. And then, in my opinion, if you feel you can make 5% change on a regular daily basis, you might want to back it down to 3, or maybe 4. Depends on what your threshold is. For me, I've got a higher threshold for risk and for change. So I can pile in a little bit more. I actually get talked to by people. They're like, you're way too hard on yourself. You take on way too much at a time. Like, it may be a lot to other people. And even if I'm squirming at the time they're talking to me, that doesn't mean anything. That just means that I'm working my way through my progress, through my process. So, and there are times whenever I have to be forced to take a break. I haven't run into a lot of those though. I'm just like, man, keep going. Keep going, baby. The world that you want to see is just on the other side of this. Keep going. This is the last hill. It's the last hill. Keep going. If there's another hill after this, that's okay. I can look back and I can see how many hills I've crossed in the past. And by God, man, God, it's so good. Keep going. There can't be that many more. There's all kinds of ways to talk yourself into continuing on the process. So, okay. You're going to challenge some of those other skill sets as time goes on, especially the bigger the challenge is, or the bigger the skill set, or the more skill sets you take on. Other ones will start to show up going, I'm not as good over here as I was before. Why? All that stuff is part of change. It's okay. Just be prepared. Don't let this overwhelm you. 1% daily. That's it. That's all I ask for. 1% on a daily basis to get you to that change that you're really after. You will change the world if you do it 1% on a daily basis. All 8 areas take on to 1%. Don't neglect any area. Again, email me at yourmaturityproject@gmail.com. It's also in the descriptions. Email me. I will send you over the starter document. It's just the 8 areas, just to remind yourself on a daily basis and start looking at how that actually works in your life and identifying your areas yourself. So, okay, there's a cost for change. So there's an energy cost to change. That cost increases stress. It increases energy depletion. It does all kinds of stuff. There's also the expectation of outcome, your attachment to your current skill sets and how long it takes you to do certain things. That all actually gets affected as well. It's how much you can tolerate. That's why I say if you feel like you can take on 5%, once you get into this, you're going to find out there's things you are unaware of. And once you open that little Pandora's box, holy shit. That's why I'm like, if you feel 5% justifiably is a good number, try starting at 3 or be okay with backing down to 3. I would say that it's usually better to go to 3, even though you know 5, because when you get Pandora's box open, that might push you to a 6. So it's okay if it does, because 5 is permissible. It's what you know you can handle. Well, 6 is out of your comfort zone, but still it's close enough. It's in the orbit of your comfort zone. You'd be surprised how far you can take it, but you got to get that box open first. Now, as I told you yesterday in the video or the previous video about Pandora's box, the Greek story about Pandora's box, the whole point of that was the world's chaos is waiting inside. Your curiosity gets you to open the box. And as soon as you do, chaos ensues. And it blows your mind. It scares the hell out of you. It makes you wish you didn't open it. It does all kinds of things to you because that's what Pandora's box does. It's intended to. But there's one thing at the bottom of the box that's worth facing every single bit of chaos in the world, because it is the antidote of chaos, and that's hope. Keep going. Once you have that, then you take hope and you start knocking down all of that chaos, because now you have the ability to start taking on each one of those things, especially when you use the maturity projects. You have 8 different areas that develop yourself in that makes you a better warrior, makes you a better fighter, makes you a better adjusted adult. It makes you better in society. It makes you better in your relationships. Your finances improve. Your business improves. Your sexuality is no longer a crutch or a hindrance, and you can actually make it something that you get real satisfaction out of. It's your physical body. If you've ever struggled with losing weight and or building muscle or getting to be a higher level of performance in that, it gets you closer because it combines everything. Like, that is fantastic. And you get there because first you start off with hope. Hope you can do it, man. It's better than depression. It's better than thinking you can't do something. So hope gives you access to go back and you start slaying all that chaos that got out. And what it is every time you take some of that chaos on and you put it back in the box because you got it, you defeated it, it now can be contributory to your personality for who you're becoming. So if you're like, I've never been able to get my finances under control, guess what? Open Pandora's box, because that's where change happens. You let that little fucker out. That beast, that thing comes out, and you use hope to take it on. And you use those 8 areas of maturity because you've developed yourself in a holistic way. You've got more fulfillment in your life. And then you take that thing, now that you've slayed it, you've defeated it, you put it back in the box, because you're going to look back in there when you come up to the big boys, when you get to the giants, the ones that you tell yourself, I can't do this. You want to cry. You want to get into the dugout. There's a thing that's on the motivation video. And it's, I forgot what it is. It's a movie, and it's got Denzel Washington, and he's in the breezeway or whatever, going out to play baseball, and it's got people are racist against him, and he can't see them, and he's like, he breaks his bat and he's crying, and they're like, you can't give up, Jack. You can't give up. Too many people are depending on you. That giant that he was facing there, he beat that fucking giant and put it in Pandora's box, because then he knew he could. And every time, if you can take some place to psychologically qualify everything you've ever taken on that was stressful, that you've overcome, and you put it into that box that was once recognized as chaos, can now be the foundation for the future you. You put it in that box and you say, I fought that thing and I overcame it. Damn, that's good. Because that's me. That's me. I'm out there. I'm after all of them, man. Every single one of them. I'm taking on every giant I can find that got out of Pandora's box. And I'm taking them down. By the way, it's your personal Pandora's box. It's not really the world's chaos. It's your chaos. It's everything you've never faced or things you were unwilling to face or the things you need to face to get to be the person that your goals, your dreams, your hopes, your desires, that person needs to slay those dragons. It needs to just defeat those giants. It needs to take on every single one of those things because that's what you need to be that person. So you open that box up and you get a real good look at fear. And then from there, now you know where your fights are. Your change is the weaponry you use to take that stuff on. It's the martial arts to win the fight. It's the sword fighting. It's everything you need to beat that challenge. And then you get your ass kicked because you took something on you weren't ready for, but you don't let it completely defeat you. You just say, you know what? I lost that one, but I'm going to come back. You know what? That giant was a little bit too big for me right now, but I'm going to figure out how to take him down. I'm putting that fucker right back in that box. But this time, it's the bodies that make the foundation for the future that you are, that you have to be in order to get to what you want to have. So you take it on. You fucking fight, man. You keep going because that box is the box that your future has access to. Because remember, at the bottom of all that chaos is hope. Now, you can transition, and you will end up transitioning hope into faith. Because once you have enough hope used to defeat those things that have gotten out, the things that you recognize that you have to deal with, once you get far enough into that, you'll get faith because you look in that box and you go, I beat that many of my challenges in life. I know I can do it now. Hope is I don't necessarily know I can do it, but damn it, I'm going to try. I'm going to get up. I'm going to have my shoe knocked off in that boxing ring. I'm going to have such an astonishing defeat that whenever I get my victory, that defeat will be talked about. And then they're going to talk about the victory. And then they're going to talk about the defeat again. And then they're going to say, you know what? I'm proud of him because he kept getting back up. He got his ass knocked out. He lost his shoe in the ring. Spit out his mouth guard. He was bleeding and drooling. Embarrassing. And then when you get your win, they bring it up. But this time, it feels good. It feels great, actually. Because they're like, damn, he has improved or she has improved, right? That's the box. You put those victories in that box. It's there. May as well use it for something. Hope will transition into faith. And faith is how many times you've overcome something and you know you can keep doing it. And you know you can keep doing it. And then you get into, I have beat that many of these challenges. I have faith that I can take down a giant or a dragon, right? I can take on those monsters that nobody wants to take on. The thing that most people just wish that they could get over. They just want to have the end results, but they're not willing to do the work to get there. The Maturity Project will give you 8 different areas to develop and to prepare yourself for taking on those challenges. You will get better at everything. And you'll do it yourself. This is not a manual to how to be a better investor. It's not a manual on how to become a bodybuilder. I can't take you to the places you want to go to, but I can help prepare you for them. Change is essential. And you have to understand, everybody's talked about the comfort zone, right? Your comfort zone is this. Get out of your comfort zone. That's where you grow. It's true. But a lot of the times you can't qualify what it is other than going, I don't know, I'm uncomfortable here, but I don't know what else to do. Okay, you're going to use some hope, and you're going to use that hope until it turns into faith. Because you're going to keep taking it on, keep taking on the challenges. You're going to get into that comfort zone, and then you're going to figure out how to get out of it. And here's another interesting little thing. They say the person has too much on their plate. You heard that before, right? Here's something that's cool. You can have a whole lot on your plate. Other people will measure the amount of work and the things that they can see on your plate, whatever it is that you're up to, measure it against their own. And there's going to be a lot of people that tell you along the way, I don't know how you do what you do. You have more hours in your day. How can you get all of this stuff done that you do? That's because you've been developing yourself and working on those skill sets that change requires. But you didn't start there. That's practice. That's discipline. That's the same as somebody going, man, you are in great shape. How do you do it? Well, you can say, hey, I do this many reps at this much weight for this long. I eat this way and I sleep this way and I drink this much water and I consume these types of things and I take care of my body. Or you can say, my discipline. That is the piece that they're missing. All the rest of that stuff requires discipline. You can tell them until you're blue in the face how to do it. But if you're not there teaching them discipline, the fuck are you doing? You're giving them information that's going to convolute. Maybe they figure out discipline along the way. But if you don't talk to them about discipline, you're leaving it up to them. And discipline's the bridge that gets you across. Then whatever you build on the other side, well, that has to do with all the other stuff. But if you don't have discipline, you're never even going to get across that bridge. Actually, if anything, you'll think that what they told you doesn't work. Or, what they'll think, whatever you told them doesn't work. So change is essential, and it's beneficial to understand what it feels like and why it feels the way that it does and what it's actually doing. So you will challenge your current skill sets. You will challenge the things that you depend on in order to complete things that you have gotten good at doing things with. You're going to challenge all that stuff. Right here. Okay. All right. Moving on. Okay. You have other thinking models too, and how those skills actually work with in association with the current skill set. Because you have models, thinking models require multiple different skill sets to support them. And then those are built-in patterns that use those skill sets, and that's the model itself. Here's the cool thing. You really are the only person that stands in the way between you and success. If you think your success is going to be identical to somebody else's, you're a fool. Now, I don't mean that to be negative or anything. Let it go. Say, I want to have success like them. Don't say I want to have their success. You don't have their life. You don't have their resources. You don't have their conditioning. You don't have their skill sets. You don't have the development and the maturity they do. But you can say, hey, I want to be wealthy like Elon Musk. Or I want to be able to make a difference on the world like Elon Musk. And then you use them as a mentor, whether they know it or not. But you need to develop yourself because the world doesn't like to reward copycats. So don't be somebody else. Be you. I need you to be you because I damn sure don't want you to be me. I bore me. I really do. Oh, God, I couldn't imagine a worse hell than having a world full of just me. Like the mystery would be gone. The excitement would only last so long. Could you imagine a room full of people that all think exactly the same the way you do? Good God. Ugh. Oh, that's a visceral reaction in me. I don't want more me's in this world because I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm up to. And the victories that I have with people that aren't me whenever it comes to growth and development is so much more rich than the victories I have whenever I just accomplish them. I'm sure I love it, but if I just had somebody else, I'm like, dude, I already know what you're doing. I know what you're going through. I can directly relate this to when I was a personal trainer, especially when I was an advanced personal trainer into the holistic model and became a corrective exercise specialist. How many times does somebody do X and then their result is Y? They want to lose weight and you're like, okay, we do these things. You adhere to this program. You're going to see this much weight loss within this much time. And then they get there for the first time or, the most recent time, but this time it really worked. And then they go into your office and they go to tell you and they're ready to celebrate because they got on the scale. They got their pants on that they've been using as their measurement. You're like, I only put these on once a month. And they come in that day and they go, hey, I want to show you something. And then as soon as you see what they want to show you, you already knew it was going to happen. There's no mystery to it. They did this. You saw the results along the way, and you knew exactly how the outcome is going to be because you've done it so many times. That takes the joy out of it for you because you've become desensitized to the results because you're familiar with them, but not for them. The joy is in them getting there, not me getting there the 40,000th time. That sucks. So I don't want a world full of me. That would suck. They're like, hey, I want hang gliding. Oh, cool. What was it like? Okay, well, apparently I just did it too. All right, awesome. It just is no mystery. And the challenges get narrowed down. So no, thank you. I'd rather that the world be the way it is. So when people are arguing for conformity, I'm like, ugh, you don't want conformity. You want to have commonality, but you don't want conformity. All right, here's the good thing. If you really want to put this stuff into action, subscribe to the channel. Look for the next video. I will talk about more that will help put this stuff together. Shoot me an email. yourmaturityproject@gmail.com. Shoot it over to me. I will get you the starter guide. And you know what? Right now, if you also want the bonus, I'll even send you the bonus starter guide to the mature guide to professional dating for men or women. I'll send it to you. Why not? The only thing I'd like is just send me over like what you're up to. That's it. You don't have to, but like, hey, what do you want to see change? What are you devoting yourself to? Put somebody in the conversation. It doesn't mean I'm going to be your accountability buddy. I might be. You never know. I might call you out on the show. You'll know if I'm going to. I'll get your consent. I'm not just going to do it. Or I'll just not let anybody know exactly who the person is. So you may know, but nobody else will. So anyway, all right. For the future, if you want to contribute to this, I have got some feedback as well about the Q&As that I used to do. I love doing it. I haven't really got back into the swing of things yet to where I've got Q&As, but I'm opening the door now. Comment in the comment section or send me over an email at yourmaturityproject@gmail.com. And that's YOUR maturityproject@gmail.com. Send that over to me and I'll do some Q&As. I'll do an episode or two a month or whatever the demand is. If there's a lot of interest, I'll do more often. And that's anything inside of the Maturity Project or any questions or challenges you're currently dealing with that you'd like to get some insights on from me. I'll be happy to go through that on there and answer as best that I can. I may even ask you to join in on the call. We'll just see. Okay. Send it over to me. All right. This is the Maturity Project. I am your host, Chad Everett Brochures, or Sir Chad Everett Brochures for some. If you know, you know. And this is on change. So put a comment in the comment section for anything you got out of today's conversation, what you liked, what you're going to use, things like that. And for the future as well, share this video with a person in your life that you want to make a meaningful conversation with, break the ice with. Share it with them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And encourage other people to subscribe. As this thing grows, the more people be interacting, the more people that interact with me, the more I can talk about things that I know people want to hear about that are a little more impactful than even what I'm currently doing, because there's a person on the other side of it. I will have guests in here, so if you can contribute to this because of your maturity level and your development, and you feel that there's something that you would like to contribute to, if nothing else, just to have a conversation with me, see if we can do a recording together or not, or if we'll collaborate, we'll just see what it actually leads to. I am not the person that is the most mature in every area of the 8 areas. I have my maturity in every one of them, and I can lead as far as that I'm capable, and I will only lead ethically to that point from insights. But I do want other people to join in on this, and I have people that are joining in on it. So where they're active and where they're not and things like that, you guys won't know until they become a guest or they're collaborating with me with material. Other than that, it's just, conversations and things like that of contribution. So, all right. The world has got a whole lot of things to address, but we have a whole lot of things to address. So before we cause more chaos in the world, let's get to working on ourselves. The path to hell is paved with good intentions. Social media and society right now seem to be paving a highway, super highway to hell. We need more people to intervene, but we got to intervene on ourselves first. So, all right, till next time. Don't forget to like the channel. Don't forget to like this video. It does help the algorithm. Let's get this thing moving along so we get more people involved. All right. Till next time. All right. We'll catch you. Let's go get up to some stuff, shall we? All right. See ya.